morning, Rupert. How are you?
I am currently under house arrest, and I am not allowed to talk to the media, so no comment.
Yeah, because this is the media.
Um, Harassment will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of a mean letter.
That's pretty funny.
That is damn funny. Don't worry, we're going to send a strongly worded letter.
Well,
Oh,
what are you looking at?
straight out of science fiction. Earth receives a laser message from 16 million. It's probably going to say light years. Oh, kilometers away. So,
That's quite a bit smaller than 16 million light years.
right.
Wow, it's
But
insanely smaller.
now get this title straight out of science fiction.
Oh, that's in the title?
Yeah, straight out of science fiction. Colon. Earth receives a laser message from 16 million kilometers away. I'm going. That is a very honest title because this is science fiction. It's fiction. Okay.
It's funny because I
Uh,
thought that you're the one that added the science fiction part. And that's
no,
that's
they
funny.
they got themselves covered on that. So I just um yeah.
Well, in the article, because I think I've seen that one, they send the signal to themselves. So it's their own signal that comes back. Um, and the way that the article title is um, laid out makes it seem like it's from aliens or something, right? And
Right,
it's not from
right,
aliens. It's just that they were able to uh, receive their own signal back.
right. Well, and moving on, humanity's biggest lie, the light bulb moment that changed a NASA astronaut forever. You know what the light bulb moment
Hold
was?
on one second. What was the light bulb moment?
It was humanity's biggest lie. The light bulb moment that changed a NASA astronaut forever.
We
It's
didn't.
when he was in a toxic enclosed environment, and the light bulb blew up, and he suffered third-degree burns.
That's
No, that's not
literally.
what.
No, okay.
No, that's not what happened. But it would probably be as
Enlightening.
from space. The truth is undeniable. Get this: Earth is fragile, and humanity is living a monumental lie. A monumental lie. I would say if you take the monu out of it, you got it about right. Um,
Wait, so what's the lie that we're special because God made us in a
no, that
particular location?
we're indestructible, probably because it says the undeniable truth is that the Earth is fragile, and humanity is living a monumental lie.
Okay.
A monumental lie,
What
or
does that even
for
mean?
short, a mental lie. But
What does that even
can
mean?
we? I I don't want to lose any more brain cells by reading any of the article. Thank you. Um, so let's see what else might be. I don't know why. Oh, scientists propose.
What?
Can't we just? I'm serious. Do we have any wealthy donors out there that would be willing to fund a scientific project of Pinchy and I, where we would like to form a scientific foundation, and we have a lot of proposals we would like to propose.
And what would
Don't
that
you
be?
think? Well, we could propose a lot of things. Like, so let's just leave that as a mystery, so not to attract more listeners
And so
and
that people
viewers.
don't steal our ideas.
Right. So, okay, this is a real article again. Scientists
goodness.
propose. Interesting. I'm not looking for these. These are popping up to make sure that I'm prepared for the future.
Right, so they're looking for you. You're not looking for them.
They don't even know that I am from the future. So, scientists propose interesting explanation for mysterious signals from space. Boy, I can't wait to read that one. What do you think does
Mysterious signals from
yeah,
space?
fast radio bursts, hugely powerful discharges of energy emanating from the furthest reaches of outer space have confounded scientists for well over a decade. Where is all this noise coming from? Tell my neighbors in the Transylvania sector of Alpha 5 to keep it down. What? Okay, so
Sound? Noise? Are they they're
no.
talking about radio waves?
I added that. Okay, you're not being able to follow what I add or
Well,
what's real
are
here.
they saying that there's mysterious radio waves from space?
Yeah.
Wow. Do
Yeah.
they know how radio waves work? Like, radio waves, we use them to encode messages, but they're a natural phenomenon. That's why we're able to even use the radio.
Why don't they consider putting a mic deep down in the ocean so they hear they're like, oh, yeah.
There's an
Watch Star Trek.
alien there.
Watch Star Trek 4. It's a freaking humpback whales reaching out to the planet Zebulon. Come on.
Thanks for bringing it up again.
Or
I have trauma from that movie.
or that's a great movie. It's funny. It's really
It's
some
funny,
stupid.
but I don't know about great.
Yeah. So it's I mean, what do you do with the noise and the scientists are confounded by the noise coming from the jungle. What? I mean, that's about as same as what they're saying. But you know what? They're getting billions of dollars to study this because it's going to change our lives. Our very lives depend on it.
These remind me of the projects that the federal government decided to fund.
Study? Yeah,
which was really interesting. Like, can fish use treadmills? That was literally a test that they did, is whether or not fish could walk on treadmills. They put them on the treadmill and to see how long they would last. Wow, that's such a worthwhile question.
Well, it was worthwhile because somebody was thinking about marketing those to fish, and they wanted to do a study before they wasted a lot of their time.
Well, I don't have full context for the study, so maybe it was actually more than that, but I don't know about that.
Here's a promising article, but I know it's going to fail. But because there's it's Communist News Network or Confounded Nerd Network or.
Did you just come up with that right now?
Yeah. So, but this is a article. Voyager 1 is back online. 15 billion miles away in interstellar space. But the end could be near. So how much are we spending to take really expensive pictures of Pluto? I would like a really expensive picture of Pluto.
How were they able to get Voyager 1 back online? That's weird.
Aliens assisted them.
That's like incredibly far away, and somehow they were able to turn it on. Interesting. I'm actually interested, except for the end may be near part.
Okay, so this is when comedy or satire becomes reality, we're definitely in a bad way. We're definitely on the edge of extinction. See, we could have articles. Doctors Rupert and Dr. Pinchy believe the human race is on the border of extinction. We could but when
we could just simply say we could be such and such over and over again, and we would never be wrong. This could be the end of the world, but it could not be as well. So we'll make money without even being liars.
Well, what we need to work on is coming up with articles that scare people. That's what would be very helpful.
It's very helpful.
Dr. Pinchy and Dr. Rupert believe that drinking fountain water will cause gangrene.
Gangrene.
Or something. And then let's plan on doing like a coffee story every other time. We need to come up with the name of our foundation. How about Follow the Science Foundation? Follow FTSF. FTSF, Follow the Science Foundation. So Follow the Science Foundation has determined that coffee will extend life 20 plus years. And then the next time we'll go, Follow the Science Foundation has determined that drinking coffee will cause premature earlobe cancer.
You forgot the key term, could.
Could, yeah. Or believe. But anyway, okay, so coming back to comedy, when reality is reflects comedy or satire or whatever, we're on the border of extinction. So I was thinking, as we're going through all these very important articles, Monty Python did a skit where this guy was going to jump the English Channel. And so there's a film crew there, and the guy's just, loosening up, getting ready to jump over the English Channel. And so the newscaster is asking him, John Cleese, he's like, so what's the farthest you've ever jumped so far? Before this great adventure you're on. And it was like 5 feet. You know what I mean? So,
yes.
So anyway, that was a spoof, and it was funny as can be, the whole thing. And then he did go for it. He got a real good long running start, and he went about 7 feet. He didn't make it off England, okay? He didn't jump over the English Channel. And I don't know what's on the other side. Is it, extinction is on the other side. That's what's on the other side. So, that seems so ridiculous. And what, and so we're sending a really expensive Polaroid camera to the farthest reaches of space to get a picture, and measure temperature. Find out what the temperature and if there's water. Why not?
What does that
That's the one that really gets me.
With the English Channel skit?
Huh?
What does that have to do with the English Channel skit?
That this company or this person was funded by a lot of people to jump over the English Channel. And obviously there's no purpose in that. Now, the value of that whole thing was humor, obviously. It was fun to laugh at that, but how it relates to it is it's like it's such useless stuff, he wasn't going to jump over the English Channel. But now we're sending really expensive Polaroid cameras into space. And then they say, no, we're not just taking pictures, we're taking temperatures. And also, we're going to find out, is there water? If there is, who the hell cares? Are you going to go get it?
Well, I mean, that's
In
maybe
case,
what they're
hey,
thinking.
well, maybe they're thinking that in case we run out,
There's some water there.
we can send a probe that'll take 15 years to get like maybe a gallon of water, and it take 15 years to get back and bring it to us. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just a lot of people are not serious about feeding people that are starving, housing people that are homeless, giving medical care to people that are in need. They're just not serious about it. They spend billions of dollars on a really expensive camera. Shame on them.
Well,
If
it
Elon wants
were-
to do that, if Elon wants to do that for himself, that's totally fine. It's his money, right? Did you? Yeah, you and Lily saw the movie with your dad
which one?
and me. Mom and Dad Save the World.
Yes.
That's another movie that scarred you, right?
Pretty bad, pretty terrible movie, to be honest. it was pretty bad.
It's pretty funny.
No, okay.
Todd,
Listen,
Todd.
we watched it, and you agreed that it was pretty stupid.
It is, but it's slapstick. But sometimes a movie. Okay, it's hard to say. Okay, that's an hour and a half long, and the one point that you thought was so hilarious was like 30 seconds.
That's basically what happened. Is there was one funny part of the movie, and then the rest was like a waste of time.
That's when you know you're dealing with comedic platinum, not just comedic gold, because comedic platinum has a different time frame. So there are movies that they have one line in it that it becomes a cult classic because of that one line. Everything else is stupid. But
Well, you know why it's platinum? Because platinum is so rare that you're barely going to even notice it.
right.
It's
So well, okay, so I think it's a very slapstick. It's a clean movie, but
well, that's true, but
yeah.
it could at least be interesting. I mean, it's good that it's clean, but Cary Grant is clean, and
Yeah,
all of his movies are probably 100 times funnier or better than that one
I
was.
agree. I agree that is a classic. His are classic, but Mom and Dad Save the World is it would be kind of interesting to see what science fiction movies were going on around that time, because it's probably a mocking some of the
Yeah, that might be the case.
but there is more than just one line. There's certain premises that are funny, and it's just but not
Kind
to
of.
go into. But I would say that has more value. Scientists will disagree with me, but that movie gave us more scientific value than that probe that is 15 billion miles away.
Why?
That's my opinion.
No, I mean, what? How?
Huh?
How?
Uh, just financial wise, the billions of dollars that went to take a picture. I don't mean to harp on this, but take a picture and measure temperature. It's like I'm a little okay. So someone says, "Wow, he's really on an anti-science rant."
Yes.
It's like, no, I'm not anti-science. I'm anti-dumb scientist. An anti-dumb scientist. That would be ABS. I'm always looking at acronyms
Yes,
and words.
apparently.
ABS. Well, it's analog brake systems as well. But with scientists, I'd say it's anti-bogus science.
Yeah.
So
So you mean you're more pro science than the scientists are?
I'm like, yeah, I am actually because what governs all virtues? What virtue governs all virtues, or is supposed to?
That would be love.
Well, that's a foundational thing, but prudence.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Yeah. So I would take both of those answers if someone
You mean
if
like
I
the
was at
natural virtues? Is
yeah
that the right term?
if
Yeah.
I or the cardinal virtues, yeah. Um uh if I was a professor and that was a question on my test and someone answered love on that question, I'd call them up front and say, okay, Isaiah, why did you say love? And if you say something like, because that Beatles song is really cool, all we need is love, then guess what? I'd mark that question incorrect. Okay. I would mark your answer wrong. Okay. But if you said something like, well, the foundation of all our actions are to be rooted in love, then I'd go, okay, I accept that. But what I was looking for is prudence. The controller making so
I thought it was
I'm
prudent
for
to say love.
yes, it was prudent to say love. So I'm on an anti bogus scientist rant. Listen, if you can tell me why we need to measure the temperature of Pluto's atmosphere and what the return is for mankind, then maybe the cost will be worth it. Maybe. But if it's just so you can sell a really cool book and pictures and copyright them and write papers and teach at you know, maniacal United University of Planets or whatever.
Maniacal.
Uh, um,
Oh, that's funny.
uh, or should I said monocle? Anyway,
Why?
I don't know. Uh, uh, so, um, so what I'm saying is that people are starving. I'm not talking about the people that they refuse help or whatever, but people are starving, homeless, injured, war torn, and we are taking pictures and measuring the temperature of the atmosphere of Pluto. Please, please, this the destruction, and then we read that article. Remember the fragile Earth, the scientist. Uh, what was it? The NASA astronaut.
What was the article?
The NASA astronaut looking from space realized undeniable truth. The Earth is fragile,
Oh yeah, yeah, that one.
and we're living a monumental lie. It's like if he had looked with his microscope or his telescope. I don't know if they have that on them. That's another really. Hey, why don't we shoot something up into space, and then let's get it. Let's equip that with a telescope so that we can look back from space to Earth. That'd be cool. This is something you do when you're 5. This is something you do when you're 12 when you're playing cowboys and Indians or cops and robbers or whatever, or racist against anti-racist. Whatever is the woke acceptable parties. Um,
Well,
but
do you think that there's
good.
not some value in analyzing these things? I agree that when it comes down to it, life here on Earth is more important. And instead of doing the telescopic philanthropy, which we talked about a long time ago, of looking out there in space, in this example, we should look at things that are going on around us and focus on those things. But is there not also some value in knowing things about our galaxies and space and the world that we live in? Because, like, uh, philosophy begins in wonder, And I would say that maybe that could be applied to scientific discovery. Not all scientific discovery, but you could say science in general begins in wonder. It could is there not some value in that? Wondering about our the creation that God has made, and I mean, yes, you could come back and say, well, most of these people are atheists, but that's not my point. My point is just in the idea of focusing on these things at all and studying these things.
A lot of us theists are pretty stupid too. So we're like we've said, atheists atheists don't have the corner on foolishness. You know, the human race is as well endowed with foolishness. So to answer your question, I come back to prudence. If I have a family of 5 and I tell my wife that, you know, I would really like to go to Colorado to ski this winter. And she goes and she might answer, "That's really nice, honey. That would be really a lot of fun. Um and can I come? Are you planning on me coming too?" "Yeah, that would be great." "Okay. So what about food for the kids? I mean, we don't have enough money for you to go to Colorado. So, but I really feel it's important for me to go to Colorado." "Well, and ski." "Yeah, but we're gonna die of starvation here, or be exposed by the in the cold weather." So I'm just trying to say that to answer your question, is there a you're and I know you're not doing this, but this is what they will bring up. It's a false sales tactic. "So don't you think information's important?" It's like, what did you just say? Well, yeah, information's important. But what is the cost and what is the return on getting that information? And
Well, I mean,
and
it's an expensive endeavor, so I'd imagine that it would be a lot of money.
Mhm.
Um, and then like when it in my mind, I'm considering the fact that for conservatives, um, or from my perspective, the federal government's job is not to solve poverty. What I mean by that is, I think it's more up to the states to figure out how best to um, deal with their citizens in the different places. And I don't think the federal government would be good at solving poverty. But the government, however, has some key roles of establishing currency, defense, and declaring war and facilitating trade with our country, with other countries. And so, let's say hypothetically, our government is doing all those things. What is the problem with them spending money on scientific inquiry, even if it's small things that still cost a lot of money? Sending a telescope into space is, or sending a camera into space is not cheap. But I'm not entirely sure what the problem is with doing that when the government does appear to be, or at least depending on who's in office and in charge, um, we seem pretty secure in many of those areas, and so it's important to say, well, we should be focusing on the things that are affecting our nation, and but let's say that we were dealing with those things, and that the federal government was doing things that was within its purview. And like I said, I don't think solving poverty is part of their purview. Would it not be valuable and prudent and okay to do stuff like sending cameras into space that cost a lot of money and stuff like that?
Well, I okay, I would like to say that no matter how correct I might be, it's not going to change. The grift and the con job and the money making and the power, it's not going to change. It doesn't mean I'm not going to fight it or whatever, but it's not going to change. But it's nice to say the truth, because the truth, if you is relatable into all facets of our life. If we hear truth about something that we used to just accept as a reasonable or whatever, and we realize, oh no, it's not that reasonable. It opens up our minds to other things. But no, I think the science and space exploration, where government is involved, it's complete grifters. It's just money and power. Completely.
I don't agree with that.
Where in the Constitution does it say that the government should be exploring the planet, or the change the Constitution? It's
Well,
to
where does it
provide.
say
It's
that
to
they
provide.
should make get
Okay,
rid of
but
poverty?
see, I didn't say that space exploration and scientific research is of no value.
Right? Yeah, I'm not saying that you said that.
I'm saying the government has no business spending money that they did not make and that I did not allow them, and it's not enumerated in the Constitution, that they could take billions of the public dollars and send the thing in space. And so no matter how cool and neat it is, and if Elon wants to do that or Bezos wants to do that, I'm all for it. Yeah, go for it. But guess what? Then what would happen? What would happen if you had 10? Okay, so when you have what's called an unlimited money pot, which there's no such thing, but the government seems to think that, and the scientific community, it's just a game. It's just a grift. It's just a con job. But if you think there's an unlimited money pot, then take your stupid 10 ideas and everyone experiment and go do that. Rather than if it was privatized and people were spending their own money, they would go, okay, Jerry, the guy that I hired for my company, tells me that it would be really good to have the temperature of Venus. And I go, okay, Jerry, tell me why. And if he convinces me, maybe I'll put my money into it. But rather than that, Mark over here says that there's a way that he can harness geothermal energy from underneath the crust of the earth to power electric producing plants. Which one am I going to go? Am I going to go find out the price of or the temperature of Venus? Or am I going to go maybe throw some money in behind the geothermal study? But when you are government, you go like, it's not about prudential decisions or decisions that are good for the country. It's like, let's fund everybody. And they're not even funding with their own money.
Right.
And it's not enumerated in the Constitution. Thank God it is. So if they pass a law and they enumerate it in the Constitution and make it, then I'm like, okay, yeah, now it's in the Constitution, but now it's violating. Not only is it now it's violating natural reason,
Right.
Right now it's just violating governmental law and purpose, and so and then private industries would go, yeah, but we can't afford to explore and do all the studies and it's like, okay, expensive. So then let's hear the 10 ideas of what you different groups want to do. And the one that seems to, if none of them benefit man, then we're not funding any of them. if some individual wants to fund them, knock yourself out.
Right. No, I see what you're saying. The issue is that they're funding all of this stuff, and it's not for the benefit of the country, which is what the job of the government is to protect and also to lead towards virtue the citizens. And so when it comes to scientific inquiry, not all scientific inquiry is good. Not all scientific inquiry is bad. The issue is that it's so easily abused that this person gets money and finance for their scientific project, even though there's really no value in it other than the government said that we could have money if we do this research. And I think I think some of what I said was a valid concern. It's not. I don't think it's the federal government's job to resolve poverty, but I also think
No, I'm agreeing with you on that.
right, and that's what
Absolutely.
I'm saying is that, but that also applies to this of what we're talking about.
Directly applies.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And so I think this is pointing to an issue with the federal government's what would you call it interference in these things. Is the government just at this point is making bad decisions as to how to deal with these things, and that the government, when they get involved so much in scientific inquiry and food industry and stuff like that, it's really easy for the government to fall into corruption, and it can become a money conspiracy instead of actual benefit for society. And I think that that's why things should be more privately owned. Where Elon Musk doing stuff with SpaceX and stuff, go ahead, do it. You have the money to do it, and you're employing people, and you have the time, so go ahead and do it. But the government isn't the same thing. The government pulls in money from the people, and so it should be for the common benefit of society, of our country, instead of for private benefactors getting money because they did some weird research project and or boring research project that has no implications for human society. And so I think that overall we're pointing at just the fact that government funding is going into numerous places that it does not belong, and that these scientific inquiries that do not have do not fall in to the purview of the federal government uh, should not be done. Yeah, so that's a couple of my thoughts.
Well, yeah. I think the science and academic joint communities with government are grift and a con job. Period. And so all the money spent to take a really neat picture of Pluto and measure the temperature of Venus. And I mentioned food and poverty and all that. I don't want government to take the money that they give that's not even theirs, but that they funnel to their friends for grifting. It's all grifting, payback, quid pro quo, endeavor. And
it's all. I don't agree that it's all. But
I say wherever government is involved in science, it is all. It needs to, but I don't want them to take that money that they give to them and then say, okay, because it's not their money. They're not a business. They're the custodian.
Right.
I want them to quit taxing corporations and businesses and individuals so that corporations, businesses, and individuals can help and have extra money to help their own and to help others near them. And government, some pointed head nerd liberal government conservative whatever will
Pointy
go,
head.
yeah, but the people might not give to this. It's like, so be it. That's not your job. Your job is to maintain a military to protect. Your job is to maintain legal oversight for contracts between free persons. Your job is to, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Your job is not to find out what the temperature of Venus is.
Right.
And so, anywhere you're involved with that, dude, when I say it's all 100%, I stand behind it. But I mean that there are good individuals within them in those situations that aren't looking at it like that. But in the power brokers, the people that go like, hey, I want to make some money selling leather, you know, they figure out everything necessary to be profitable if they're any good at business.
Right.
So that's why I say it's grift. This doesn't, all people benefiting from, okay, we've heard the saying, maybe you've heard the saying that a high sea floats all boats, you know? It's like, that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about somebody behind the scenes in a very George Soros way. George Soros is trying to sow discontent for geopolitical reasons, okay? But he's involved in all those all his fingers and money is in all those things for control. Well, in this area, it has to do with big money, big contracts. This is somebody behind there is running the show, and they know that there is going to be no benefit for us knowing that there's 20 metric tons per square mile of water on Pluto. It's never going to make a difference to us ever.
Right. Well, something that I have been thinking about for a while, but I'm thinking of more directly now is people have been complaining about corporations for the longest time. Corporations this, corporations that. But what happens when the corporations become a part of the government or associated with the government? We completely turn a blind eye to them, and people don't seem, at least on the liberal side, the leftist side, to concern themselves with talking about those corporations that are associated with the government, so they're fine. The government is made up of people, right? And so there's no reason why we should not view corporations that are associated with the government and have monopolies. There's no reason why we should consider them as different than corporations that are greedy in the private square, right? And so it's always been a weird thing to me because people view the government as like something different, like almost an entirely different entity than the rest of human society. But it's like, it's not. It's made up of people, and people can be corrupt. And in fact, in my contention is that it's even more deceptive and corrupt if they're associated with the government, because the government has the ability to enforce laws and enforce things, whereas normal corporations do not most of the time, unless they're like very what would you call it, like secretive, almost acting as government agencies almost. But anyway, it's just like it's interesting how we view corporations differently, and people that associate with the government differently than the private square.
Well, yeah, in general, corporations are looked at negatively, right? Right now. Okay. And I think that's an unfair view. In certain cases, it's fair. But what it is it's a tragedy. Just like our higher institutions of higher learning that are looked at upon many as very questionable. That they're just indoctrination centers. They're not higher learning centers. Okay, and that is a tragedy. Because higher learning centers are for the benefit of peace and prosperity of mankind in general, or country, or family, right? Corporations are the same way. It's a tragedy that that it seems like there's a corruption. There's the tentacles of government within the corporation and tentacles of the corporation within the government. Not all corporations, but
Right.
but corporations are a generally were founded by an individual or a family or a group of friends that got together and made a business and worked hard and over years uh, grew that business into a large corporation, and so it's a good entity. But when grift and money and backdoor deals, there's always going to be grift and money backdoor deals. Some is understandable, but it's so far past that right now because, and it's a tragedy. We all suffer because of it. But coming back to my railing against science, and I hope I get a lot of people mad. And I was just thinking, if I was a scientist, and you and I could easily have become scientists, maybe not good ones, but we love science, and we would have been. I think we would have been technically and intellectually competent to be good scientists. If someone and I was working for some company or some corporation or maybe a government entity, and I had a lot of funding and I made good money, and if someone were to ever challenge me and go like, "Have you ever wondered what your study of?" I'm just going to stay with the temperature of Neptune, okay? Well, you're in the jet propulsion department of the study of the temperature of Venus
Wow,
or
you've changed
Neptune.
planet over and over and over again.
Well, because we need to know the temperatures of all the planets. So, has it ever occurred to you why you're doing that? What do you hope to gain from that? And what is the cost of doing that compared to maybe applying those funds somewhere else? And if I was a moral person or a virtuous person, I would hope I'd go like, I never asked myself that question before. Because I love mathematics, because I like making jets, because I like figuring out how to use electronics in the difficult environment of space. It's almost like a game, it's like playing a game and it's fun. But it's like, but this is a game that it's taking of something valuable and using it to obtain a goal. And so something else is not getting that value. And are you being prudentially and morally uh, upright by your wanting to know the temperature of Neptune? And if I looked at that as a scientist, and if I was virtuous, and I saw that No, this is just a money making. It's just somebody thinks it would be really neat to know what the temperature of Neptune is, and someone even farther up in the chain realizes they can make a lot of money by making it seem really neat to know that what the temperature of Neptune is. And so then what happens is when the snake oil salesman comes into town and tries to sell his snake oil, his cure-all snake, rub this on your missing arm, and three arms will appear. Pick the one you like the best.
How could you rub it on a missing arm?
Good point. But they don't. That's a detail that they leave out. So that city or that community runs that person out of town. Well, eventually that snake oil salesman realized, you know what? I need to get somebody on the community board, and I need to just start and I need to start influencing public opinion how important snake oil is and how important, and so now it's to the point for you and me, or for me to say that I want government out of. I think government involvement in science and research is all grift and a con job, and it's not their place.
I agree with that.
People will call me anti-science, and it's like, and they say, don't listen to him, he doesn't like science. It's like, and guess what, a lot of people are going to hear that and they're going to go like, yeah, that guy's a nut job, he doesn't like science. Because they've drummed that into the lab coats, have taken over the priestly garb. It used to be that priests were respected. In some places they still are, but it used to be that holiness was respected. Now, supposed white lab coats are the answer, are the kings and rulers of the world, and so.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah,
because science is basically the new religion, and
mm-hmm.
and not real science, and that's one of the issues with it being labeled science. It's so frustrating. It's like it's called science, but it's not. And people just use the term science as a term to show how great that individual is, or how stupid we are because we're anti-science or whatever. But it's like, we've talked about Elon Musk quite a bit in the past, and I'm for a lot of his research projects or whatever.
Yeah,
And
as far as we know, we like him.
right, and
He's a private individual. He's not the government.
right, but he is a scientist and an engineer, and so the way that people get around this is by saying that Elon Musk isn't really a scientist. But it's like, he is. I mean, he's working.
Because he doesn't agree with them.
Right. And so, of course, he's anti-science because he disagrees with their so-called science. And so, apparently, we're anti-science because we agree with the scientists that the other scientists disagree with, which is just weird. But anyway, he has demonstrated that he is a scientist. He's been building rocket ships. He's been doing a lot of research and things, and has actual results, right? And he doesn't have the government aiding him at everything. Well, somebody might also say, well, he's the richest person on the planet, so of course he has time and money to do that. But that ignores the fact that he's earned that money and gained that money by doing these research projects. So, he's actually a demonstration that it can be done. That the government doesn't have to be involved.
And maybe he was just lucky. So are you upset that he was lucky and you weren't? Right? Keep going.
Well, yeah. Well, that's another reason. But I'm just thinking, instead of him being an example of an exception, like, well, he's rich, so he has time to do this. The reason why he has time to do this is because he's made money doing it. It's just like it's a demonstration of what can be done without the government interfering as much. And I'm sure that the government has actually interfered because you have EPA regulations and all sorts of things that the government does that is unfair. But he's a demonstration of what can be done without having the government pay for everything that you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so to say that we're anti-science is just a phony excuse for not listening to what we're saying.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't it the? I don't know if. Isn't it just character assassination?
Yeah,
Rather
basically.
than rather than deal with the argument, just malign the character. You know.
Right. That's what the science term has become. It's become uh, a moral indicator of who you are. You're anti-science, therefore you're evil. You're pro-science, you're the good guys. It's like that's what it's become. It's the same as racist. Like you're racist. That's just it's not even it doesn't carry the same weight that it used to. It simply is a derogatory term for
Mm-hmm.
anything that we don't like.
Mm-hmm.
You're anti-science. You're anti-climate science or well, actually science denier, climate denier, all the denier things.
Mm-hmm.
It's all just a tactic and it's just it's not real. It's not a real argument. It's just a tactic.
Well, in movies, um, that are dealing with science, and there's usually an antagonist that is a anti-science guy, and it's usually a guy, usually white, but not always. But now more so, it's going to be white. You know, heterosexual, probably Amish.
Amish.
but but they have the one of the antagonists wanting to disrupt the pursuit of science, and they make him look like a crazy nut job. In the movie, I told you about the what was it called? It's with Jodie Foster and McConaughey, Matthew McConaughey. Um,
It's
not Arrival, Contact, maybe first, maybe Contact. Anyway, there's this crazy religious zealot guy who ends up blowing up their thing, and and it's funny that that crazy nutjob religious guy used a very highly sophisticated scientific device to blow up the highly scientific experiment. But they always portray these people as the nut jobs, and it's like, and guess what? I don't care about labels. I really don't care. It's too bad. We need to fight the woke society. We need to fight false information, all that. But guess what? Individuals need to start thinking for themselves. When they hear someone say, listen, does it, I'm sorry, I'm going to bring it up again. It's just repetitive because this is what I want people to start asking. If I could get a movement across the country and the world, other than, you know, the gospel of Christ, but
right.
this is tied to that in a sense because it's waking people up to ask pertinent questions. I wish I could get everyone to start asking, why do we need to know the temperature of the planet Neptune? Because I come and say that, and they go, oh, he's a science denier, block, 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 and then I go out into oblivion, right?
Right.
But if everyone's saying it, eventually they're like, yeah, why are we? It's like on this the Star Trek the Undiscovered Country, I think is, I don't know if it's that one or the other one. We get them mixed up, but when Kirk they're supposedly talking with God, and there's 6 or 7 of them there, and everyone's kind of like blown away by this being that is appearing to them and might be God or whatever, and Kirk is like, uh what does God need with a starship? And some of the others say, "Hey, be quiet. You don't talk to God that way. You know, He's God. You don't, ask Him." And then all of a sudden, someone else is like, "Yeah, why does God need a starship?" And pretty soon, from that one question, and in that show, Kirk isn't saying that he didn't believe in God. He's testing the spirits, just like the scriptures say. It's like, in a very Hollywood way,
Right.
but in a very, it's very clear if you know your scripture, um, you know, so if people just started asking, why do we need to know the temperature of the planet Neptune? Why do we need a $1 billion photograph of the nebula on the outer outskirts of our galaxy? And guess what? Normal people are going to start asking why that and demanding that we don't need to spend that. And who's going to fight against that? All the people that are making a lot of money by getting that expensive.
Yep.
And so um uh and that's why I come back full circle again. If you go full circle more than one time, does that mean you're going in circles?
Yes.
I guess yeah. So I guess so let's say you go in one circle. No one could ever complain to you or accuse you of going in circles. No, I'm going in circle one. But now this is another circle. So now we're going in circles. I'm angry because I now it occurs to me that people are starving because people are choosing to let them starve. People are hungry because people are choosing to let them be hungry. People are homeless because people are choosing because it could be fixed. Or it could at least again, it could at least operate better. But the world, if we put the amount of money that we are spending on military, on science investigation, on all these things, on espionage, we would be, yeah, we're going to be judged because of this thing called Moloch worship and the murdering of babies. But that's only part of it. We also are going to be judged. The world's going to be judged because uh, the world is a place, a fruitful place that can house and feed and clothe and give so much if men were to cooperate for one another to a high level. And instead of doing that, you have countries suffering unspeakable catastrophe. It's seemingly every few years, and it's always the same countries. And so I'm just a little mad, Z. I'm just a little mad.
Well, I mean, again, I don't think it's the federal government's job to do that either,
Yeah.
to solve poverty. But I mean, whatever ability they have to do things for the benefit of their people, whatever's in their purview, I hope that they uh, provide relief for people in whatever way they can. But again, I think that both of these things are an issue, and the federal government is just not the right level for dealing with these things. I think. I think
Yeah.
that it's something that is within the purview of the individual states of
Hmm.
dealing with poverty there, because it's like the same solutions in one area are not going to be the same solutions in another. I don't think. Um,
Hmm.
and so I think that the issue is with both of these, and I think that the government has really fallen in, or the federal government, the government that is the central government, is much more powerful than it ever was intended to be. And it's got a lot of things under its purview that don't belong there, and the scientific discovery is one of them. And it's like there have been benefits there's all there are many benefits of the government being involved in it, or that have been in the past, where they've been able to do things that would have been really difficult in uh, private industry. But there's also the fact that it's mostly a lot of cons with it being done this way. Yeah, because there's a lot of corruption that we don't see, and there's a lot of corruption that we do see, which is scary because the fact that we see so much corruption, and then half of it we don't even see, is like, what else? What's lurking in the shadows? I have no clue. What have they been doing this entire time? I don't know. It's like there's the obvious things, but then there's the stuff that we don't even see. It's behind the scenes, which is scary. And
Mm.
something I was trying to recall, something I said a while ago. I said that philosophy begins in wonder, and scientific discovery does. But the government is supposed to allow or to enable the citizens to do that on their own time. Like what I mean by that is the government is to lead us towards goodness and virtue and to provide for our the common welfare
Do you
of
mean by lead? Do you mean by lead? Do you mean produce an environment that
facilitates it.
yeah promotes that?
Right. That promotes
When
good.
you use the word lead, I don't think you mean lead.
Well, it lead. What I
Or
mean by
that's why I
lead
mean
is that, well, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. I agree, but I think that you also can lead a horse, but then they have to drink it themselves. So sure, we do need to provide uh, an environment where it's they are inclined towards virtue, but it's not necessarily the case that they will become virtuous. And so, if I don't mean lead as in force.
direct. Yeah,
Well,
that's why I was highlighting.
I mean direct by influence is what I mean. They can
Well,
direct by
and
influence in just a general sense of these are things that are that we promote and these things we don't promote. That's what I mean.
yeah.
But I don't mean to get bogged down in the details. My point is just to say that um, they're not the ones that um, I
Well,
lost my
see,
thought. It was
well,
just
well. I'm sorry. I probably I want I don't want to let go of that lead thing because I know how you mean it, and but I know how.
well, I clarified
I
it, so I want to continue my point. And
okay,
if you find a need to clarify afterward, that's fine. But
okay,
philosophy begins in wonder. But it's not the government's job to wonder about these things and to pay people to do this stuff. It is they however they can provide environment for the citizens themselves and people that and corporations that have that are not corrupt facilitate the opportunity for them to discover these things themselves. But I don't. It's not the government's job to make it all happen, but it's their job to facilitate virtue and good things, such as wonder as well. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's the point
well,
that I was trying to make.
the um, I want to use a horse being led to water, but I also want to contracts are really big. I mean, national defense is important because we live in a world and there's always people wanting to expand their kingdoms. But so national defense is important. But it seems to me that when I think of all the different things that, well, I say all the different, the few things that government is supposed to, because remember, our constitution and is limited government, is limited to very few things, right? And where the people have a freedom on great scope of things, you know. So the fact that the government is there to police and enforce contracts between free individuals. So Jimmy contracts Dennis to cut his lawn and pays Dennis a certain amount of money. Dennis signs and says he'll do that. Well, Dennis doesn't do that, and he just takes his money and moves to Jamaica or whatever. Or I don't want to say Jamaica because then that's extradition, and we don't want to get into that. But he moves to Iowa or whatever and hides out there. Well, the government can find him and confiscate Dennis's or put him in jail. Maybe confiscate some of his belongings and give it back to whoever the guy was. His name the first Steve, who hired Dennis, because they're there to enforce contracts. Okay. But because they've got this huge field of people out there that are free individuals making contracts about all kinds of stuff with one another. And the government is not to go to Dennis and go, you are to contract Steve. No, that's Dennis's and Steve's freedom to do whatever in their free action to choose to enter into contracts. The government is only there to enforce that those contracts are honored by the free individuals that made them. And so, just like the government has no business telling a certain student that they're going to be a mathematics major, or another student that they're going to be a philosophy major, or another student they're going to be, but they are to build a situation, or they are to enforce and have a country that enables those free individuals to make those determinations of going into math. And then the meritocracy, or their ability, will dictate to what level they can achieve. And government doesn't lead that at all. They just present a safe environment for people to make free choices. And so like the horse in the water, the government, if somebody's contracted to make the big tub of water, okay, the government can maybe say, hey, you need to use this kind of metal because it's safer and it doesn't give off lead into the water, and blah, blah, blah. But they have no right on the owner of the horse or the horse themselves. They don't really have a right on the water. They just have a free situation that if this person wants to walk their horse over to that water, he can. And then if that horse wants to drink the water, they can, but they can't be forced. Everything is a free action, and the government just gives a protection for that. And that's why I'm talking about leading, because I know what you meant, but most people, when they hear the word lead, unfortunately, that is too prevalent in our society, because you and I both, really like Trump. I might like him more, but guess what? He's a leader, but we have to be our individual leaders. We need to stand up, on our as well. We can't say, well, Daddy Trump's going to do it all for us. No, that's not what he's...
Right.
He's not there to... that's when we see lead, people have taken that to be like, even our side, even our good side is saying they want government to make them prosperous, their businesses prosperous. That's not government's role.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, you would think that as people that look at limited government as an ideal would cringe at that, like the idea of wanting to be prosperous as the role of the government or something. And I think that the thing about the leading is a good leader is not one who is authoritarian and says, this is the way we're going to do it, and you guys all have to do it without any consideration of their abilities. It is important to uh, make sure that you are not being wishy-washy and being like, whatever you guys want, that's fine. Um, there are certain restrictions that you have to place as a leader, but you also have to consider their needs and what they uh, require from you. As a leader, you can't fix everything, but you can help lead these people, and you can help facilitate good decisions. And so, like when Trump is he is a good and strong leader, and one of the reasons why is because he understands that you can't just make everyone do everything, and the idea of the government uh, leading the citizens in an authoritarian manner is the part that we want to avoid. But contract law and upholding contract law automatically is an upholding of virtue, because contract, well, it
It's
upholds,
justice.
yeah, it upholds justice, exactly. And so in that way we can say they lead, as in they do what is they facilitate good action, but they don't force good action, because you can't, because then that wouldn't be a good action. And so I'm not entirely sure what I'm getting at. I'm trying to go back in my head with the logic of what I was thinking, but I think it is important to recognize what is proper leading and what is wrong leading, and I think that this point applies very well to the point that I was trying to make about wonder. Is um, human beings wonder about things. The government isn't supposed to control their wonder, but it's supposed to promote it in a certain sense. And so, them paying scientists to do something is not quite the same thing as what I'm saying. It's similar to the virtue thing. Is the government doesn't just pay people to do good actions, but instead they facilitate it with certain laws. And so, in the same way, why would we want the government to pay people to wonder about things, instead of doing it is similar to the virtue thing? I don't know. I don't know if what I'm saying makes sense. The idea was there. I just feel like I can't find it again.
Well, no, I thought that was all good. Some of it is, some of it, what we're talking about is market driven economics in a sense that, okay, you can make a really cool pencil that you can use to write underwater. Okay. But it's probably not going to sell that great because there's not a lot of authors and writers living underwater right now. And so
Living
so
underwater.
yeah, but if you made a pencil, and we know that people use computers to write now and software, but just go with the analogy. If I was a company and I made a pencil that lasted longer and needed to be sharpened less often, that's going to sell. The market's going to drive. It didn't take the government to promote a study on how to make a better pencil.
Right.
What it did is a free individual thought I could make a living by making this pencil. And that competition with somebody else spurred me on to higher levels of quality or meritocracy, let's say. And so it was driven in a natural, free manner rather than government directing that. So coming full circle again, which that means we're going in circles again. But so if my beef with all the measuring the temperature of Neptune and taking really cool pictures of the nebula, if all that money was not applied to from government for that it might help and it might not help the poor. It's not the it really isn't the issue. It's out of the principle of the thing. It kind of reminds me a lot of times when sometimes the Catholic Church has been attacked for having all their financial holdings, and it's like, okay, first of all, most of those amazing buildings were built on the blood, sweat, and tears of faithful people that wanted that building to be built upon their sweat, blood, and tears because they wanted to bring honor to God. And so, and as any corporation or any business grows, there's going to be a lot of properties. So a lot of times they say, well, you should just, it's that same clever, sophistic argument of like, well, just sell everything so you can feed the poor. It almost sounds a lot like Judas. Hey, that could have been, we could have sold all that and given all that money to the poor. It's like, so what I'm not saying is that by not funding this grift and con job of science and research is going to solve hunger. I'm just saying that it probably will help. And it will probably, we will start prudentially using our resources for those things that really would actually benefit. Actually bring a benefit.
Yeah.
And the benefit to man comes down to 5 basic things as far as for his physical: water, food, clothing, shelter, and privacy. Everything else centers around those. If knowing the temperature of Neptune doesn't help me in food, clothing, water, housing, privacy, then why am I doing it?
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
And so, and that goes to your point that, okay, if governments quit spending that, you and I both don't believe that government can solve hunger, but it could get out of the way.
Right.
And there are things it could do that could foster and help, but it can't solve it.
Right.
And in fact, they're terribly they're very poorly equipped to do so. And we're glad that they're poorly equipped to do so, because if they were equipped to do that, then they're equipped to tell you what you're going to believe, where you're going to work, where you're going to live, what you're going to eat, where, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So
Yeah. Well, I think
that's the full circle coming back around.
I think that we've replaced the family with the government.
Sure.
In today's society, in many ways, not entirely, because there's a lot of good families that still exist, and I guess I'm just saying in a general sense that many of the things that were considered to be in the purview of the family, and the strength of the family, has become what the government's job is, and the family is the foundation of society, and the government is not, and so it's unfortunate because what we've seen is a degradation of the family, but a continual growth of the government. And that kind of society tends to not last.
No.
And because the strength of the empire is the family, not the government. And so if you replace the strength with the strength of the family with the government, then it starts to decline and become worse off. And this is a principle that has been repeated throughout history. It kind of goes back to 2 of the episodes that we talked about prosperity in many ways. It's like prosperity is a difficult thing because prosperity is a good thing, but it can be a bad thing. And we've seen it throughout history many times. It's like when things are easier, then our understanding of things shifts to a certain extent, and we start to, in this example, view the government in a way that we should not, and then we view the family in a way that we should not, and where we consider the strength to be in the political might that we have, as opposed to the moral uprightness that we should foster and we should aim towards.
Mm-hmm.
And that it's sometimes easy in prosperity to start to focus on the government and rely on it to solving all of our issues. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's part of what we see, and that's a problem. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking that we should wrap up soon. It's been over an hour. And so, any last thoughts?
Yeah. I would like to, you and I talked about this. That we'd like to start a scientific foundation, and so we're looking for donations to help us do a study
No.
on what the temperature May 5th in. Okay, yeah, we haven't done
No,
that.
definitely not.
No. Yeah, we're not going to do a study. We are racing. We are racing toward critical mass as a culture, to where the only thing is a cataclysmic event, and where I truly foresee. Well, there's been movies already. Z, maybe you've seen a couple science fiction movies where a group of astronauts go up into space to explore, and while they're gone, the world has a huge war, and they come back and everything's like gone or missing, or whatever. Um, and we're rapidly approaching where reality reflects comedy or reflects literature, where um, we'll be sending some multi-billion-dollar satellite to some place, and all around that landing pod and state and area, there'll be people so impoverished that they can barely function. But yet we're still sending a satellite. All I'm just saying is we're coming to a place where it's gonna collapse.
Yeah.
And and government is not the solution. The right leaders are not the solution in themselves. If the populace does not, um, if we have a righteous leader, and the people do not have the same righteousness as that leader, that society is going to fail, and the leader is going to be fine. You know what I mean? And
Yes.
I'm just, like I said, it really struck me that uh, all the pain and suffering on the world. We know that as Christians that comes from sin, but uh, we also know that we're not pessimists or optimists. We're galactic Christian warriors, in the sense that we're going to try our best while we're here. And when we see that there's enough for everybody, then it's hard to realize that a lot of choices are being made because people don't care about everybody. They just care about themselves.
Yep.
And that's going to have. Margaret Thatcher said that socialism collapses when they run out of other people's money. And
So true.
I think we you and I are both hopeful because of the election. It gives us, okay, there's some people that still kind of see 2 plus 2 equals 4. But man, we are still in the woods.
Yep. Yep. Well, and it's, I think that the great contrast in City of God is humility, and opposed to it is pride. And pride is what is going to destroy the government, or the country, not the government, the country. And
Mm-hmm.
I hope that it's not going to end up destroying it, but unless we take a turn, it's likely going to end up there. So yeah,
All right. Well, hey, good conversation, Pitchy.
as always,
And
mostly.
yeah, thank all of you out there. Thanks for listening, and appreciate it. And make sure you hit like, subscribe, and comment, and focus on what's important with us. Pray for us. We pray for you. All right. How do I do it? I need to do a study. I need to do a study of which would be better. Do you do it Godspeed? Do you do it Godspeed for back here?
How about just do it the way that you do it?
Hey, Godspeed.
Have a good week.